Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, no matter where you are in the world. I'm glad you're here at Sheetmetal TV and Sheetmetal Unleashed, the podcast. Hey, I've got a great guest today, and I'm going to bring him in and have him tell us about his journey. And he's a good friend, and I've known Patterson for a long time. So let's get this started. Pat, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. It's been too long since we got together to have a beer, but we're gonna have to do that one of these days. And I sure appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk to you.
Man, I know it has been a while, man. I've even stopped drinking beer now. I'm not gonna lie. I do like an old whiskey though.
Well,
But
I'm a bourbon man myself, to tell you the truth, but I don't do a lot of beer anymore either. But uh, uh,
man,
I've got a little bit of that. We can split a drink or two of that if you want to.
okay.
But it is good to see you again, man.
It is. It is. I've been down this road before and wanted to put a podcast together and have people on, and because I just want to get manufacturing out there in the open, put a spotlight on it, right? Um,
Yeah.
so you and I did a podcast a long time ago. I think that
Yeah.
was during COVID
Yeah, I believe so. We did one. What were
on
we
press
talking about?
breaks.
Yeah, we did one on bending,
Yep.
bend deductions, bend allowances, how to find K factors, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've come back, and this time we've come back, and we're doing it right. So, hopefully it takes off. Eh, I don't wear a bikini like some of these other people on
Uh,
YouTube to be able to get the views, man. I'm
there,
I'm
there's,
not
there's a,
that beautiful.
there's a mental image nobody wanted.
Man, hey, look. Tell us about yourself, your backstory, how you got into manufacturing. Because I did know that you were a journeyman at one point when you started
Yep,
out.
yep,
So,
yep, yep.
uh, take us down that road, man.
All
And
right. Well, um, I was in the Navy, and while I was in the Navy, I did main engine operation, propulsions, and repairs on high pressure steam turbines and all the associated equipment, the pumps and all that good stuff. And the ship I was on was commissioned the first time in 1943, and this
mhm.
I went in '81. And the parts, there were no parts. There were no you. If something broke, we had to either make it in our machine shop there on the ship, or if we were import, we had to sub it out to the shipyard, or we had to sub it out to a commercial manufacturer. And obviously, the tolerances on these things are incredibly tight for bearings for shafts that are spinning 1500, 2000, 2500, 3500 RPM. And so I kind of got to the point where when we had stuff outside being manufactured, I would go out and verify it, kind of like a source inspector. Uh,
Mhm.
and I would go out and verify it and make sure that it was what we had actually told them we wanted. And I had was setting the specs and telling them what to do and how to do it, and then they would make it. And the tolerances on some of this stuff are so tight you can't even take it off the machine, because the machine marks won't match if you have to remachine it. And so I would go out and I would check it and okay it, and then they would either go to the next operation or they would ship it back to us and we would install it on the equipment. And when I got out of the Navy, um, it wasn't like the world wasn't like I thought it was, and everybody wasn't waiting to hire veterans. I did almost 7 years in the Navy, and everybody wasn't just out there going, "Hey, vet, come here, and we're going to pay you a lot of money." And I found a shop in Garland, Texas, which is where I was living at the time,
Yeah.
and they were looking for someone that was familiar with military standards, and they wanted them in quality, but I didn't have enough experience in quality, so they hired me as a helper on the shear. And that's how I got my start in the wonderful world of sheet metal manufacturing, was working on the dumb end of a shear.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you do that 8 or 10 hours a day. I think I was making $7 an hour or something, man. I was happy to get it, to tell you the truth. But you do that 8 or 10 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week, and you start wanting to be on the front end of the shear instead of the back
Yeah.
end. And so I worked hard, and the guy that worked that was the shear operator. I don't remember if he quit or moved to another company or got promoted. I really don't remember. I just know they said, "Okay, well, you're the shear operator now," and so I started running the front end of the shear. And I would go in and I would work a lot harder and a lot faster than him, and I would get my cut list for the day done by lunchtime or shortly thereafter. And then I would go and help the guys on the brake, and they started teaching me how to run brakes.
Hmm.
And or I would go and help the guys on the turret punches, and they would teach me how to set up turret punches.
Yeah.
And I went to another company, and there was an old man there. I say old man, he wasn't much older than I am now, but he was an old man when I met him. And he kind of took me under his wing and made me, kind of as my mentor. And
Yeah.
he started teaching me things, and he sponsored me as an apprentice. And I went through the journeyman program, and I became a journeyman precision sheet metal mechanic, and kind of did all this under his tutelage. And learned how to set up and run brakes, learned how to set up and run turret punches, learned how to set up and run lasers. Um, Never was much of a welder, but I got good enough that I passed the test, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and uh, you know, to the point where we even had an old thumb buster out there. You know what those
Hmm.
are, right? And
No, no. Tell us about
okay,
it.
a thumb buster is a punch, and what it is it's got a stylus that you make a template by hand with drills and snips and stuff, and you put it up there of all the hole patterns that are going to be on the part, and then you put your blank over on the other side, and it's got a stylus, and you drop it in a hole, and it only holds one punch, and you drop it in a hole, and you press a button, and over on the blank that you're making the part out of, the punch goes down and punches a hole there, and then you
Oh,
let go
that's
of the punch, and the
crazy.
punch goes up, and you go to you take the stylus to the next hole that size, and you punch a button, and you're just doing this, and they call it a thumb buster.
Mm.
And it's not much better than a kick press, but
That that
it's
reminds me of the machine. You know the little there was a little machine. It had a little swing arm on it, and you would make a template out of steel, and
uh
then you'd bolt it to the machine, and the roller bearing would travel around it.
yeah.
And over here, your gas torch would cut the part out.
Yeah, a little later in my career, I was working for a company that had a gas arch that was running off of one of those things on uh, off of a template that we had
Yeah,
made,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they upgraded it and got it on an eye where we would sketch the part with a tech pen on a piece of
yeah,
vellum, and then the eye would follow it around, and the torch, the burner on the other side was burning whatever the eye was following on that line on that vellum.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but my dad always used to tell me, make a living with your head and not your back, and I could see. I really always wanted to get into quality and into inspection.
yeah,
And I finally got the opportunity to do that because I was running a night shift, a second shift at a shop, and I was checking the flat patterns coming off the turret punch. And back then, you check the flat patterns with calipers, and we had an XYZ table. It wasn't a CMM, but it was just an XYZ table.
yeah,
And I was checking everybody's parts, and so they finally moved me into inspection because I was fast at it, and I was good at it, and I was accurate, and I didn't make a lot of mistakes. And so I went into inspection, and back in those days, I could see this was maybe 89, 90, something like that, maybe. I could see that they were going to visual inspection, and I could see that they were gonna that the industry was gonna go to like Fabrivision, where
Oh
they
yeah, yeah,
are
yeah, yeah.
the laser scanners for flat pattern parts and all this stuff. And I could see it was going that way, and I was going to be orphaned in a career. I was going to have a career that it was going nowhere.
Yeah.
And so I started coming in on my off time and sitting with the turret programmers, and staying late on my shift or coming in early on my shift, going in on Saturdays when they were working, and sitting with the programmers and learning how to program. And so I learned how to program, and I became a programmer. And I started on Fabricam, I think, or MetalSoft. One of the, I don't remember. It was either Fabricam or MetalSoft.
Yeah, I remember Metalsoft from years
Yeah,
ago. Yeah.
yeah. And since then I've programmed on Fabricam, MetalSoft, Radan, of course. As
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
uh, I let's see, on half a dozen different programming systems. And I kind of got a really good break, and the company I was working for um, got bought out by a big giant multinational manufacturing company. And they kind of let me rise up into the manufacturing engineering groups and stuff. And um, and I had a career then. I wasn't just a shop floor monkey, and I was out there actually doing stuff, and was able to make really good money and support myself and my family in a good manner,
Yep.
and have an extended career. And I've been doing this, and I'm back in the quality group now. I'm a quality engineer, and I've been able to have an extended career, and not much of it left. But there's only about 4 years left until I'm done. But uh, I've I've really enjoyed doing what I do. Man, to me
Yeah.
it's a fun job. I mean, I think it's a fun job.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. And I think you were talking how you were mentored by a guy, and I think I, I think that makes really good employees when they've got a mentor that takes them under their wing, so to speak, and shows them every part of the business, the shop, and then cuts them loose to grow from there, right?
Well,
So,
and it's in those days, it was a little bit different world. Uh,
yep.
I was really hungry, and I think he saw that in me. I was really hungry. Uh, I wanted to learn how to do this. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I had, back in my early days, around the time I started running brakes, um, I had another older guy, probably in his 50s, that was a journeyman brake operator. And he asked me, he said, "Do you like this business?" And I said, "Yeah, it's okay, And, I'd been in it, 3, 4, 5 years, and I was, and he's like, "No, man, do you like it?" And I said, "Yeah, why?" And he said, "Because if you don't like it, you're young. You need to get out of it right now." He said, "Because it will half buck you to the point where you cannot afford to leave it to go do something else." And that's true. If you're even relatively good at it, you can make good money.
Yeah.
And you'll end up getting that half dollar here, half dollar there, half dollar here, until pretty soon you're going, "Well, I can't leave here and go do something else. I can't have this renaissance change in my career, and and completely turn around and move into a different field, because you can't afford to do that, because you live at the level of your income." And I really took that to heart, and I sat down and I thought about it a long time, and I thought, I do like this. This is what I want to do. And but he was right. He was right.
Yeah, this industry here, you can make a lot of money in it. I mean, geez, I think I moved to the US when I was 22, and I had done all my manufacturing and welding and certified welder over in New Zealand, and I thought I was making lots of money back then, and I wasn't really
Yeah.
compared to what it is today, what people are getting paid, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
well, and but it's all relative and it's all perspective because in 1990, uh, sorry man, my hat's messed up on.
nah,
In
all
in
good, man.
in 1990 91, and because I was maybe 92, but because I was living it and doing it, I just thought, well, this is the way it works for everybody. I mean, this
Yeah.
is works this way for everybody, and I'm a lead inspector or something at a shop, and I'm making 17 $18 an hour.
Mm,
And it didn't seem that like that much to me
hmm.
because, like I say, you live at your income level, and as your income goes up, you adjust your lifestyle up to that income level because you're stupid. Or at least I was.
Yeah.
And but it didn't seem like, well, man, you're making. But when you do the math from 1990, 91, 92, 18, $19 an hour, I was making a lot of money.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I was making really good money, but you just don't realize it until you kind of look back on it and say, well, everybody else back then was making, laborers because I was skilled, but I was a laborer. I was working on a shop floor making parts. And
Yeah.
until you look back on it and you realize that laborers back then were making $7 an hour, $8 an hour, and that was in a day when the minimum wage was 3.75. So they were going, geez, I'm doing pretty well. I'm making seven. I'm making twice or two and a half times the minimum wage. I was making six times, five times the minimum wage. You know,
Yeah.
and you just don't realize it.
Yep. Yep. That's right. Because I think when I started welding, I ended up once I got all my certifications, I'm welding on bridges and all sorts of stuff, right? But you're making $13 an hour, and then you got an extra $4 or something an hour just to be out on an inland oil rig,
Yeah,
or and then you're doing over 12 hours. You got dinner, or right?
yeah.
Everything was paid. Um, Back then, you didn't have to have medical insurance or health insurance; it was all covered in New Zealand.
Mhm.
But
Well, but the thing is, back then I was working, even job shops had insurance that's better than I'm getting now
mm, mm,
as part of my benefit package. You know, and yeah, my copay is your copay my copay was $10 or $15, but there were no deductibles. There were there wasn't any of that. It was just I had a $15 deductible. If they hospitalized me, I had to pay $100, and that was it. They paid everything else. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, there was no difference. There was none of that, and and I was paying like $12 a week for it. I mean,
Hmm.
it's nothing.
Hmm.
So, but you don't really realize, how good it was until you get a little older and you start looking around and really looking at it.
Yeah, yeah. Nah, I love this industry, and I think it's a good, exciting industry to be in.
Well, you,
Um,
you, you and I've talked about that, a thousand times over the
yeah,
years.
yeah.
Uh, what was it, 20 years close to that we've known each other, something like that?
Be Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm even getting older by the day. Hey, what kind of work the shop you're working at now? What kind of work are you guys doing? Are you doing long runs, short runs,
We're doing
production,
we're doing
or
we're doing real short run. It's all aerospace. Uh,
okay?
the, we don't do punches because aerospace can't use punched material. Of our the sheet metal work we do is routed. Uh, I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
Okay. No,
Aerospace
no.
you can't
What?
punch material on aerospace, and especially on manned space flight stuff. You can't punch it because of microfractures. You have
Okay.
to route you have to route it.
So
So
waterjet or routers, right? Or
you can water jet it, but the only water jet we have is at a sister facility, and
okay.
we keep it pretty much buried up cutting ingots and billets.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of machining also,
Mm-hmm.
and so uh, that water jet is mainly used to cut billets for the machines.
So what kind of materials are you processing?
It's almost entirely aluminum. It's almost entirely T6 or T71.
Okay. Okay.
Like I said, aerospace, man. You know how it
Yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah. Yep. Yep. It's that's crazy stuff there, the
Yeah.
aerospace.
But over the years, I've worked with everything. Uh, and run lot sizes from literally from one up to 10,000. So uh,
Hmm.
you and I have associated with each other at just about every company I've worked for, and there have been more than I care to count. But I spent the majority of my career in telecommunications, making stuff for telecommunications industry or the computer industry,
Yeah.
and of course, there the it's a lot more forgiving than what I'm doing now.
Hmm.
Uh, but and it's but it, in a way to me anyway. It's more interesting, I think, because in telco there are so many um, there are so many ways to do it and get the end result you're looking for. Where in
Yeah.
aerospace, you are really, really tied down in your methodologies and in your procedures because everything there's just so many requirements and so many compliances you have to meet in aerospace that it's kind of like being I love to read. Okay, well, you need to read these 10 books by Saturday. Oh God,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's nowhere near as much fun when somebody's making me do it. Well, that's the kind of the way it is. Uh, the environment I work in is very relaxed and very cordial, and everybody has a great time. But the work itself is very, very methodical and very planned out and very detailed and there's so much documentation and so much compliance issues that you have to meet that the work itself is not as fun. But fortunately, I've been doing this so long that I don't really have to think about it too much. You do it
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
you do it for 40 years nearly, and you just know how to do. You just know what to do.
Yep. For some of our listeners that are interested, I know a lot of people on the shop floor, they want to move to the next level and want to get into something like manufacturing engineering or quality control. And since you're doing quality control now, well, can you give us or a walkthrough of a typical job from start to finish, as from a quality control point of view?
Well, um, for me personally, what I do, uh, I'm I'm the first eyes on the router, the work order, whatever you want to call it, the job packet when it goes on the floor. I
Yeah.
review I review every job packet that gets released onto the shop floor. I look at the sequence that's on it. I look at whether the steps are appropriate uh, to make what we're doing. Make sure that uh, you know the the material call out is right. Make sure that the cutting operation is right. Make sure that look at the print. If I can see where there's going to have to be two operations to do something, I make sure there's two operations to do it. I make sure that we are, because we do so much machining, we, and a lot of shops don't do this, but we do. because we do so much of our work is machining. We actually have inspectors clock in and out of the job, and we gather time on how much inspection time we have,
Yeah.
because we have so much inspection time as a whole that we can't just write it off as overhead. We have to account for it. And so the routers have inspection times. I do all the quoting for inspection at my company. So I look at the hours and make sure that the production control guys have created the router that the quote said we needed, and that
Mhm.
there's times on it and an appropriate number of steps on it to inspect everything as it needs to be done. And then we put the job on the floor. We order pre-cut blanks because we don't have a shear. We don't bother with that. We just order pre-cut blanks, put the blank on the router, route the part out. When it's routed out, goes to inspection. Uh, Somebody there. I don't do a lot of manual inspection anymore unless it's something intricate or something that they need help with.
Mhm.
But they go in, they check the part, make sure that whatever bend deduction is right. Of course, we're running hard material, so it's broad bend deductions. Can't bend things on a 32nd or a 16. I mean, a 32nd or a 008 radius like we used to do.
Mhm.
Uh, and go back out on the floor. Most of our runs for this stuff are 5 parts or to 10 parts. We don't run
Yeah.
long run stuff because we make everything we make is almost one up. Uh,
Mhm.
they they go back, run the rest of the parts. They come back for a last check, like a final inspection of that operation, which basically is uh, we stack them up, make sure the holes are all in the right place, make sure everything is there, make sure any feature hasn't been skipped, make sure there's no features missing. Uh, we've all done it. Operators tend to stop a program and do something, and when they start a program up, they may or may not start it up at the same time. It happens. So we just verify that all the holes and everything line up with our golden piece, which was our first part inspection. Uh, Goes out, it gets formed. Some of the stuff that we do, we sub it out to be bent because, again, because of the material that's being done, we are not the best brake operating shop on the planet. And I know that, and I've told them, and they finally adapted to this over the last 2 or 3 years that I've worked there, that there are companies that are much more, uh, uh, you there? There are companies that are much more qualified and much more proficient in bending some of these more exotic materials than we are. We were doing some stuff out of titanium the other day, and I said, "You need to sub that out. We'll cut it, but you need to sub it out. We don't want to form any of that." And
Mm.
they said, "You're right. Okay." you know, and so uh, the inspection here, we 100% inspect almost everything because the runs are so short. We really can't do a statistically accurate sampling plan. So just about everything gets at 100%. Everything gets looked at after every operation. Um, in the machining world, everything gets inspected. Every operation gets 100% inspected because a lot of the stuff is manned space flight, and uh, you can't afford a failure. I mean, you just
Mm.
can't afford
Yeah,
a
yeah.
failure. You know, so that's kind of the way we do it where I'm at now. But it's small run, um, and we work in the machining area. We work with a lot of castings also. Uh, so um, we're having to send out. We don't do it in house, but we're having to send out for a lot of NDT stuff, um, non-destructive testing, X-rays, penetrant testing, uh, UVs, all that. So we send all that out because the cost of getting the equipment and having somebody certified to do it, because everybody's got to be certified. Dean, this is how strict it is. We've got a little group over here that makes cables
Mhm.
for them to crimp wires together. they got to go to Boeing school and get certified to crimp a wire.
Man. That,
So, and Boeing teaches them.
yeah, yeah.
So, so that's how strict everything is.
And there's equipment we've made in the shop where you just crimp it and wire it up yourself and send it out the door, right?
Not in our shop.
Yeah, yeah.
Our crimpers have to be calibrated.
Man, that is some serious.
That is some
Um,
serious stuff right there, man.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what type? What? What? I know you guys have a router, but what do you guys heavily rely on? Um, equipment do you rely on in
Uh,
your shop?
Equipment. Well,
Mm,
The CNC router. Uh,
yeah.
we have an Amada RG80 press
Oh,
brake.
really? Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
and in our sister facility, we have an RG50.
yeah.
They're older, but they're in really. We maintain them. I mean, all of our machinery is incredibly well maintained.
Do you have a person inside your shop that does the maintenance?
No,
No.
they're under maintenance contract with Amada and Fanuc for the controllers.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Have you guys integrated any automation or robotics or
Uh, you know,
CADCAM software in
I,
there?
I,
Or?
well, we use for the programming software. They're using Merrimack, believe it or not, an older version of Merrimack
I
for the
have to.
router. And
We all know somebody who used to sell that.
yeah,
Hey,
well, and I used to use it. I was on Merrimack back in God 90 when it wasn't even mouse driven; it was keyboard driven. And when you were using it, it sounded like a touch type operator
who sold
all the
that?
time.
Who sold that to you back then? Probably Doug.
No, I don't know who sold it to us. I went to work for a company over in Grand Prairie.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, I Again, it's that little incestuous sheet metal world that was the Dallas area.
Yeah, yeah,
There
yeah.
were so many shops, and once you get to a certain level, the only way to get more money or to get another step up, they all tend to pigeonhole you. You're really good at this, and so here's what we're going to pay you. And you say, okay, well, but I want to go do this, and they go, no, here's another dollar. Stay where you are. And so the only way to get that next level up is to go to another company. Back then, it was to go to another job shop.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
because that was back in the days when the Dallas Fort Worth area had, probably 1,000 job shops, and I'm not
But
exaggerating.
the but they still have a lot of
Yeah,
job shops there
but
too, though.
they do. But guys like you have taken a lot of the opportunity that guys like me took advantage of, because uh, the software has gotten to the point where you don't need a mechanic anymore.
Mm, mm.
You know, the software has gotten where it unfolds it for you. It lays tools on, it
Yeah,
optimizes it. You don't need a guy like me
but
anymore.
I think we still I I think we still need people to learn how to unfold th- the old school way. You work it out.
I agree. I agree.
Because,
If I owned a commercial medium to high volume sheet metal shop, there would nobody program for me or nobody run a press brake for me until they could demonstrate that they could develop a flat pattern
yeah.
and know how to do that. You know, uh, it just even when I was running software that did it for me, I still would alter things to do it the way I wanted to do it so it would work on the press brake the way I wanted it to work on the press brake.
Yeah.
You know, uh, I would know that this particular material using this tooling combination on a press brake, the bend deduction chart that I've got in my software, it's not really accurate when I'm using this tooling configuration on the brake. So I would alter that bend deduction and I would change things to make it work the way I wanted it to work.
Mm.
And you don't see guys learning to that depth anymore. And when I started programming, I was programming in a text file, you know,
Yeah.
with a keyboard in a text file, and
Yeah.
I had to be able to develop that flat pattern. And
Mhm.
I was sketching it out, and then putting, here's a 0 0, and an add to get from the blank to
That's
and you just do it.
yeah. That's how I did it. I
Yeah,
did all the
paper tape.
programming
Yeah, paper tape
by
machines.
hand, fill it out, lay out my coordinates, and then type it in the controller until I think it was 2000 when we got Radan.
Yeah. Well, I
Uh,
was I was typing it literally into a text file, and then uh, when I started doing it, we had a paper tape machine, and we would run the paper tape machine to get a
yep.
tape to run the thing, and then they splurged and they got the connection for the Fanuc controller. This was an Amada, what, a 344 or something like that, a little thin turret queen.
Yeah,
Three,
yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
know, I know the one you're talking about.
yeah, and they got the connection so that I could stand at the machine and program it into a text file, and then I could just download it directly off the computer into the controller. But I think you only had like, I want to say it was only like 40K or something that you could download into the controller. It wasn't much,
No,
you know. Uh,
no, because those
and
older machines, some of them you had to trickle feed the code into them.
yeah, yeah.
Once you got out of the tape reader, even right.
When I was working for Logic Design up in Addison, Texas, and when we first started trying to do nesting, we had a sun system there, and we were trickle feeding it because we wanted to, uh, you know, one or two sheets of material to run the whole unit. To run. We were running telecommunications cabinets back then, and we wanted to be able to put one or two sheets of material up there, put one sheet up there, turn it up, unload the sheet. We had a manipulator that would, all it was clamps, and would slide it off and slide the next one on with suction cups. And uh, the second sheet would be the remainder of the parts, but we had maybe 40 or 50 parts on those two blanks, those two sheets of material, 48 by
Hmm.
120 sheets of aluminum. And we had to trickle feed it on a Sun Microsystems system, and trickle feed it so we could run it. We were trying, we not just trying, we ran it lights out like that. Uh, you know, 4:15 in the afternoon, the guys got it set up and bought off, and we go home, and it runs it all night, and you hope nothing breaks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I think the last tape reader machine we had was probably um, I don't know, probably 2001, 2000.
Well, that's pretty far into
Yeah,
the DNC age there.
yeah.
Uh,
Because we had an old Whitney plasma punch deal with a tape reader,
okay,
right?
we're dating ourselves here. Every-
Yeah, I
Whoever's
know.
watching this are going to go, "Who are those two old men, and what are they talking about? I never heard of that."
Oh man. Hey, imagine back in the day cutting stainless steel sink tops out with the
Oh,
plasma
Jesus, man.
and the thick edge you'd get on it, and you'd have
Yeah,
to TIG weld that sucker up, right?
yeah, and the edge prep you'd have to do on it to make it happen. Good Lord, man.
Oh man, funny,
Because
funny, funny.
I remember, what was it, 90 96, maybe 97. Golly, Dean, we're old, man.
Yeah,
Jesus, that was 30 years ago, man.
yeah.
96, 97. Uh, the company I was working for, uh, we had like 23 factories and 18 companies, right?
Dang.
and it was Flex.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. I remember
and
that.
we matter of fact, that might be around the time I got to know you.
Be
Was it Flex?
No, after that. Oh, maybe at the tail end of that, because that's I
Well,
think
it
that's
was a
when
little it was a little earlier than I'm talking about, but it was
yeah.
actually Logic still, because you sold us Radan when we
No,
first
no,
shipped, wasn't it?
no,
Was it not you?
that would have been Doug. I know
It was
I
Doug.
used
It
to be
was
the
Doug. Yeah,
support guy,
yeah. It was Doug,
and
and yeah, I would call you because for um, applications engineering issues. Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
that's
That's right.
when Oscar and Carl were there too.
No, no, no,
No?
no, no. That's Telec. That was Telec.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
okay.
this is when me and Denny and Jack Kerr and names out of the past, man. I don't even know where those guys are nowadays. But we what it was when it was Logic before they sold to Flex. They wanted to go. They were threatening Flex to go public if Flex didn't buy us. And to go
Yeah,
public, they had to be on uh, uniform platforms enterprise wide. And we had a factory, we had a shop or factory, whatever you want to call it, in North Carolina, and one in Parsippany, New Jersey, and two in Pennsylvania, and one in Washington, and one in Austin, and one in Chicago, and we had like seven or eight factories. And so they said, Pat, find us a CNC software that you like that we're going to roll out to all of these places, and everybody be on the same software. And I picked Radan, and it was
mhm,
Doug that sold it to me. And and then me and you, when we were implementing and importing and getting everything set up, that's when you and I got acquainted. Was there then, and that
mm.
was probably '95.
No, no, that wasn't me. I would have
Wasn't
been later. I probably was at Telic when you had
no, that may be where we met. That's when I got them. I got them to buy Radan too. But
yeah.
anyway, it's old time ago, long time ago. But anyway, uh,
Nice. Are there
we what?
yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh well, we were talking about you know uh, all the edge prep. Well, back then when I was working at Flex, they decided we were going to go all with Trump lasers, which Trump makes a really good laser. And I'll offline sometime I'll tell you the story about how Radan got the post processors for Trump lasers. You're welcome. Uh, but Trump was putting out some lasers that said they could work with compressed air.
Yeah,
Okay, because there's a lot of nitrogen and a lot of oxygen in the air, and they Amato was going with a scrubber and Trump was going with compressed,
yeah,
right? And you're talking about using those plasma cutters to cut stainless, and we was talking about the edges on it. Dialing that compressed air in on those Trump lasers to get a cut that wouldn't take your hand off.
yeah, yeah.
That was an adventure, man, right there. That was an adventure.
No, uh, I bet. Yeah, that stainless, man. I remember on the plasma, the old days. Now plasma's a lot different now. Where it's come a long way since
From
then.
I haven't been around a plasma machine in a while, but from what I understand and what I've read, because I still try to again, this is that was my first love with sheet metal, for the
Yeah,
manufacturing
yeah,
world, and the high volume, mid volume sheet metal, do it fast, you know, and job shop environments. That was my first love in this industry, and so I still read the stuff. I still try to stay, somewhat current on it. And everything I'm reading tells me that a plasma cutter today is just probably almost as good as a laser was in the late '80s.
mhm,
You
mhm.
know,
Oh
so
yeah, it's that's going different directions. That thing
yeah,
that's changed.
yeah.
Are there any tools or machines that you couldn't live without your day to day?
Well,
Something that you know.
where I'm at right now, because, like I say, we have a limited amount of sheet metal, and the requirements and the compliance that we've got to keep. Obviously, I couldn't live without that that router. I mean, we you can't. That's the equivalent of a punch or a laser in a commercial shop.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
in a commercial shop, uh, what I what I just couldn't live without. Uh, I would think it would be a if I'm buying, depending on what type of turret punch I'm buying, if I'm buying a Trump, uh, that if I was starting a shop right now, I would probably buy a Trump turret punch because every tool in it can auto index, and that gives you
Yeah.
so much more freedom and flexibility uh, with a tool load than it does. If I couldn't buy a Trump, I would. I don't know what the latest Amada is, but the equivalent of the old, King, 455 auto, 4 auto index.
Yep.
But the Trump is more versatile uh, for light gauge work and high volume stuff, just because you load 25 tools in that thing, and you can do just about anything you can do with a 72 station Amada.
Mm, mm. Yeah, the only thing, you know, I won't get brand specific in here, but the to me, I like the turret because if one station's out, you can still run it,
That's
right?
true.
Especially if you got an axis on it or
Yeah.
4 auto indexes or something like that. That's the only thing. And I've run different ones and that.
Well,
So
I've run Wiedemann's, I've run Strippets, I've run Amada, I've run Trump, uh, I've run
strip
God,
it's that I,
that
I
that
ran a
that
strip it long
that
time ago.
yeah, I ran a Strippet. I will mention names. I'm not really fond of Strippet. I don't really like their
Yeah.
their their equipment. Uh, but what is no? It's that Swedish. I think it's Swedish company
Oh,
or Finnish, one or the other. Uh, but they
fin
make
power.
a Fin Power. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah,
run
yeah.
I've run Fin Power. Man, I'm sitting there going Finish. Why Fin Power? That should have been easier to remember than that.
I know.
But I've run those. I think Fin Power is a really good machine. My problem with the one I was running was that, and this was a while back. They might have overcome it, but it was tool compatibility. I just it 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 didn't work with normal. Like I'm a huge fan of Wilson tool, and
Oh, yeah,
it was
yeah,
hard to get Wilson tooling for that Fin Power at that time. Uh, I don't know if they've branched out
Will
and do more of it, but at that time it was hard to get tooling for it.
yeah, Wilson Tool's pretty good. I've worked in I've worked inside of Wilson Tools doing training there for a week or two. Several times I've been there.
Yeah,
Um,
let me tell you that story about that Trump, about how Radan got
yeah.
the post processor for Trump. I bought 26 lasers from Trump, and I was running Radan across all 23 of my factories at
So
Fab.
you were Trump's best friend back then.
Well, I was going to put lasers because we went on this big standardizing. Every factory has the same equipment, the same capabilities. We can move any product anywhere, anytime,
Yeah.
right? So we were standardizing these 23 factories in 18 countries. And I was doing all of the turrets and all of the lasers. And a guy named Tom Bennett was doing all the press brakes. Okay.
Hmm.
And so we had decided a motto was going to be our turret punches, but we wanted Trump to be our lasers. And so I had gotten and picked out, and we had sat down and negotiated the price with Trump, but we said, we're using a third party software, and we want to be able to use it on Trump's uh, lasers. And they said, nope. And we said, well, then we're not going to buy them. And they said, what? I said, we're not going to buy them. And I said, we want to develop post processors for Trump lasers. We want to send a guy from Radan, and they sent Steve Parker. We want to
Mm-hmm.
send a guy from Radan with one of our guys, which was me, to Trump to go through your programming school and talk to your software engineers, and we are going to develop any question he asks to get the information to develop this. We're going to develop post processors for those for Radan. And they said no, and we said, okay, well, we just won't buy the lasers. And they called me like 2 weeks later and said, you know, I think we can do that.
Yeah.
And about 2 weeks later, Steve Parker came over from England, and he and I went to Radan programming school. And then
Mm.
I went to Bath, and I was over there a couple of weeks helping him get post processors set up. And that's how Radan got into the Trump business.
Yeah. You know, there's a guy in New Zealand works in a shop, and he was, I think he was there when Steve Parker was at Radan back
Uh,
then. But he now lives, he was living in the UK. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he lives in New Zealand and he works in a shop in New Zealand now. And um they're still he's still using Radan
yeah. Hey,
over in New
if
Zealand. But
Dan, I know you don't work for him anymore, but I'm telling you right now, if I was if I won the lottery tonight and decided to start a shop, I'm buying Radan.
yeah, yeah.
You know, I'd get a
No.
hold of you. I'd get a hold of you for the rest of my equipment, but I
uh, but hey, man. So looking ahead at fabrication today, well, what do you think? Are there any technologies or trends that you're excited about in fabrication? What's coming out? Um, uh,
I'm
eh,
I am, man. I'm excited about, and I don't know how far out they are for us, but I'm excited. I get more and more excited about robotics for sheet metal, especially
yeah.
for the industry. The more I read about it, the more I get excited about it because they have come to the point where uh, they've got the sensors and they've got the software to the point where the I always said that a robot could never bend parts as good as a man,
Hmm.
and because of the consistency, a man is pushing up against the backstop, and the man helping to lift the part, and you don't get the back bend. And back then, that was true, but I think they've got it now where a robot can
Oh,
do it better. And
exactly.
and
I
and
was just I was just in a shop with you know, I sell the Mitsubishi lasers, press brakes, and you've got the sheet follower, right? That helps you with the sheet.
that
Well,
and,
on
and
this one, it'll actually bend and then travel up with the tool and then shoot forward so you can get that out of the tool.
oh wow, and that and
Right.
then and they've got the, when you put the part against the back gauge, they've got the sensors, and they've
Yep.
got the the robot to the point where it's actually measuring the pressure. It's putting the sheet up against the back gauge, and so it's just got to the point now, and I think now they're probably going to be more consistent even than a man, and
Mhm.
and that's hard for me to say because I've always said I don't think that they'll ever get it where the machine can do what the man can do, but I think they're very close, man. They're very very close,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I'm real
that's
excited about that, and I'm real excited about for the industry again. I'm real excited about the steps that robotic welding has taken because
mm,
it was pretty good when I was back there on the shop floor and designing the fixtures and everything for it. We don't do any of that where I work, but man, I wish we did. God, I wish we did,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that and the laser welding is just, it's really, I think it's an exciting time for the industry. And I think that, if there's any young guys out there uh, that are interested in this type of work and interested in making something, because man, there's very little more fulfilling than looking at something and knowing I made that, or going out in public. And this has happened to me many times in my career, going out in public and seeing something that you made
Hmm.
out in the wild. You just happen across it and you go, oh wow, I made that. And that's happened to me several times, and that is an incredible feeling, man, that when you come across something out in the wild that you made, that is a really good feeling. So, if there's any young guys out there that go, that would be cool, I think I'd like to do that. The advice I would give you is, be hungry, be aggressive.
It,
Anything somebody says, I'll teach you, go learn it, man. Go learn it.
yeah. See, I didn't even have to ask you the question. I was going to ask you that question. What's your advice? And you just given it. See?
That's my advice. Go in before your shift starts, stay after your shift ends, find something in that shop that you want to learn how to do, and go stand next to the best guy in the shop and let him teach you how to do it.
Yep. Yep.
And I've offered that to younger guys, and got this one. I'm not going to do that off the clock. Well, okay, then that's the difference in you and in me, and why you make $38,000 and I make over 100. I was willing to
Mhm.
do that. I was willing to do that. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Be look, the on as we wrap this up here and get back to everything. Um,
Back to the real world.
yeah, 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 yeah. What? Here's some fun questions, and I try to ask these questions at the end of every podcast.
Okay.
Favorite metal to work with?
5052H32.
Okay,
It's
nice.
most forgiving metal out there, man. It did. If you can't make that work, you can't do this.
um, let's see. What's one tool in a shop that gets overlooked, but you swear by it?
Corner notcher.
Oh man, that's a good one because I corner notches are really good, man. I'm down with that. I've made cabinets before, so yeah, corner notches are definite, man.
Absolutely. That'll save you more money than it costs.
Yeah, yeah. Um, man, hey, it was great talking with you again, buddy. I appreciate it as always. Um, give me one tip for so we can have some tech tips going on. I want to take these tech tips I learned from every podcast and put it out there and share it with everybody on social media. So give us a tip for manufacturing.
All right. In a sheet metal shop, if you're having trouble because of a material thickness issue, uh, you buy material and it comes in intolerance, but on the light side, or intolerance on the heavy side, which is never going to happen because they're not going to give you metal. But usually it's intolerance, but on the light side, a little thinner than it should be. And you're trying to bend that material and your bend deductions are not working out. Try cutting a piece of even thinner material, wrapping that top die so that your radius is a little bit bigger, and opening up that V just a little bit, and you're bending it. You can even still point it if you want to, but you're bending it on a little bit bigger radius with a little bit wider V, and your bend deduction will come out better.
Nice, nice. Thanks for the tip. Okay, I'm gonna close us out, and I'll let you hang out in the lobby
Okay,
in our
Dean.
green room lobby.
Yeah,
All right.
Dean. I enjoyed it, and I hope it was worth your time to have me on. And
Always, always.
and guys, Dean always knows where I'm at. He'll clear you, and if you got questions or anything, let him know that you need me, and we'll figure something out.
Man, thanks, Pat. You have a
Anytime,
good
man.
one.
Anytime, Dean.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you. I appreciate you all tuning into the podcast and on YouTube. Remember, you can find us on all platforms. And, I'm going to do a shameless plug here. We have set up the merch store. Everything's good to go. And we have merch now. So here's one of our t-shirts, American Manufacturing, Sheet Metal Unleashed podcast. So make sure, help us out. We don't get paid by YouTube or anybody to buy the equipment or the gear. So even if it's something to get a cup of coffee one day. Have a good one. I'll see you guys out there and be safe.